cells to rub together flagged up this guy as an extremely dangerous individual, and yet nothing was done to prevent him.
He was flagged up to the various agencies. There's an agency called Prevent, which is supposed to look into people who are considered to be...
There will be a time at the end of this trial to discuss what happened. Yvette Cooper's words echo ominously as the Southport Killer trial begins. But why wait? What doesn't she want us to know right now? Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. From the Prevent program's failures to the silence of social services, every layer of this case peels back to reveal more questions than answers. As the nation mourns, we're left to wonder, is justice truly possible when the system itself might be on trial?
3 times he was referred to Prevent, and 3 times nothing was done. So much was known about his intentions.
The key question here is, why did the Prevent, social services, the police, all the agencies who would have been involved in this?
As the Southport Killer trial begins, Yvette Cooper's words hang heavy in the air. There will be a time at the end of this trial to discuss what happened, she says. But why the wait? The public is hungry for answers, and the truth is more chilling than anyone could have imagined. This isn't just about one deranged individual. It's about a system that failed 3 young girls in the most catastrophic way possible. Cooper's statement reveals a shocking reality. Axel Rudakubana, the alleged Southport Killer, was referred to the Prevent program not once, not twice, but 3 times between December 2019 and May 2021.
Farage is really kicking hard here is why the police withheld for so long what they knew about the killer.
Why wasn't it dealt with? So, to the extent, was there a cover-up? I don't think that's really the right phrase in this.
At the tender ages of 13 and 14, this troubled teen was already raising red flags, but somehow those flags were ignored. It gets worse. The police, courts, youth justice system, social services, and mental health services all had contact with Rudakubana, a veritable army of professionals, all tasked with protecting the vulnerable, and yet they failed to see the ticking time bomb right in front of them. How is this possible? How did a teenager with such clear warning signs manage to slip through every crack in the system?
Terror manual. So there was the suggestion when the riots were going on that there was a terrorism link.
They were basically following the regulations and the laws about contempt of court. That they didn't want to be seen to be prejudicing a potential trial.
The Home Office, clearly rattled by these revelations, commissioned an urgent Prevent learning review during the summer. But what did they find that they're not telling us? The silence is deafening, and it's hard not to wonder if there's a cover-up in progress. Cooper's announcement of a public inquiry that can get to the truth about what happened and what needs to change feels like too little, too late. The damage is done, and 3 innocent lives have been lost. But perhaps more troubling is what this case reveals about the Prevent program itself. In the year leading up to March 2024, 54 individuals were referred to Prevent for incel views. That's 54 potential time bombs ticking away in our communities. And let's not forget the almost 2,500 individuals identified as having vulnerabilities without a clear ideology or counter-terrorism risk. Are these the cracks that Rudakubana slipped through?
Of a Rwandan family who were Christian, maybe it wouldn't have, but that's where the idea of cover-ups come.
He was flagged up to the various agencies. There's an agency called Prevent, which is supposed to look into people who are considered to be...
Critics have long argued that Prevent is ill-equipped to deal with cases where individuals exhibit violent tendencies without a clear terrorist ideology. The Southport Killer case seems to prove them right in the most tragic way possible. It's a glaring gap in the system's effectiveness, and one that's cost 3 young lives. As we digest these revelations, we're left wondering, what other failures are lurking beneath the surface? How many more Axel Rudakubanas are out there, slipping through the cracks of a system that's supposed to protect us? As the courtroom doors swing open for the Southport Killer trial, a storm of questions rages outside. The nation's demand for answers has reached a fever pitch, with politicians and public figures raising their voices in a chorus of outrage. But as the clamor grows, a more unsettling question emerges. Are we witnessing the beginning of a massive cover-up? Nigel Farage, never one to mince words, has thrown down the gauntlet. His claim that this case represents one of the worst cover-ups I think I have ever seen isn't just provocative, it's a match threatening to ignite a powder keg of public outrage. But is Farage right, or is this just another case of political grandstanding? The Crown Prosecution Service, for their part, is playing defense. They've trotted out the old chestnut about preserving the integrity of the trial, insisting that certain information had to be kept under wraps. But here's the rub. Axel Rudakubana has already pleaded guilty, so why are we still fumbling in the dark? The CPS promises that all will be revealed during sentencing on January 25th, 2025.
The cells to rub together flagged up this guy as an extremely dangerous individual, and yet nothing was done to prevent it. And we will then pass that information on to the police so they can intervene and stop him, prevent him from committing a terrible crime.
But that's a long time to wait when the public's trust is hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Yvette Cooper is making noise about new reforms to the Prevent program. It's a lovely sentiment, but it rings a bit hollow when we're still in the dark about what went wrong in the first place. How can we fix a system when we don't even know where the cracks are? The families of Alice, Bebe, and Elsie deserve better than this. The people of Southport deserve better. Hell, the entire nation deserves better. We're not talking about some minor bureaucratic snafu here. We're talking about a catastrophic failure that led to the loss of 3 innocent lives. The public's right to know isn't just a nicety, it's a necessity. Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, hit the nail on the head when he said, being open at an early stage is important to maintaining public confidence. But has that ship already sailed? With each passing day of silence, each vague promise of future transparency, the government risks eroding what little trust remains. The aftermath of the Southport attack was a powder keg of misinformation and unrest. False claims about Rudakubana's background spread like wildfire, fueling riots and violence. It's a stark reminder of what happens when information vacuums are left to be filled by rumor and speculation. The government's reticence isn't just frustrating, it's dangerous. As the Southport Killer trial unfolds, the nation's attention is fixated on more than just the courtroom drama. The calls for transparency and accountability are growing louder, with Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp demanding answers to prevent future tragedies. But will these demands lead to real change, or are we witnessing another round of political posturing? The revelation that 54 individuals were referred to the Prevent program for incel views in the year leading up to March 2024 is a stark reminder of the challenges we face. It's not just about one killer, it's about a system struggling to identify and address potentially violent individuals before they act. The question now is whether the government can rise to the occasion and implement meaningful reforms, or if we're doomed to repeat this cycle of tragedy and outrage. As the trial progresses, the British public is left wondering, will justice truly be served? And more importantly, will it extend beyond the courtroom to the very institutions that failed Alice, Bebe, and Elsie? The eyes of the nation are indeed watching, and they're demanding more than just convictions. They want a complete overhaul of a system that's proven to be dangerously inadequate.